Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Steven Brown, and in today's video, we're going to be doing our very own Armchair GM as promised. Now, in the last video, we took a look at some other Armchair GMs on Cap Friendly, and they were interesting to say the least, but I'm gonna do this a little bit differently so that I don't get myself in too much trouble with the predictions here. I'm gonna break it up into three separate lineups. So what I think the Maple Leafs lineup could look like on opening night, and then around Christmas time, and then closer towards the trade deadline. I know it's still really early on in the offseason, so things are subject to change, but I mean, most of these videos are just for fun, so let's have some fun. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. I don't want to keep you guys waiting any longer, and it should be up on the screen, and you're going to see the cap space displayed in the empty little spot there. And the most glaring thing that sticks out to you right away is Mitch Marner at $9 million. Some people are freaking out right now. Oh, you're an idiot. How are you going to get Mitch Marner for $9 million? Dislike, unsubscribe. Well, $9 million for Mitch Marner would be on a shorter term deal of around 3 or 4 years, depending on how persuasive Kyle Dubas really wants to be. And I think the benefit to a 3 or 4 year deal for Mitch Marner would be that he goes first next time, right? I mean, among the big three that we have, he went last and he's proven to be the most difficult. So next time around, Matthews and Nylander have 5 years left. We give him a 3 or 4 year deal. He'll go first, and he won't have Austin Matthews' new contract or William Nylander's new contract to compare himself to. Okay, so let's just go through this line by line. And I have Ilya Mikheyev playing with Austin Matthews and William Nylander because that's what's been reported so far. That's what Babcock wants. So I threw him up there, and my thinking is that Mikheyev is going to be almost like a Hyman type, right? He gets in heavy on the forecheck. He gets the puck away. William Nylander distributes it out to Austin Matthews. He shoots. He scores, right? I think that that's the way that line's going to work, and Austin Matthews has requested to not play with Kasperi Kapanen anymore like he has in years past with Zach Hyman, and that's well in his right to do so. So it's an interesting line. I think he's kind of interchangeable with Trevor Moore, but I'm going to get to that in just a second. Now, the reason why I say he's interchangeable with Trevor Moore is because Trevor Moore really impressed me last season, as I think he did with a lot of Leaf fans. I mean, he was a feisty player in the playoffs. He's got some great speed. He can stick handle a little bit. I think he's going to fit in well with Tavares and Marner while Hyman's out injured. I think he just needs an opportunity, and this is exactly what he has, an opportunity to play higher in the lineup and show us what he can do. And maybe a couple of you have been yelling at me, Steven, why don't you have Johnsson a lot higher up because there's injuries? Well, I think this third line has an opportunity to play together even when the team is fully healthy. And I think that there's a huge added benefit, especially come playoff time, to having chemistry with your line mates, right? If you know each other's tendencies, you're going to be able to be a lot more successful in the playoffs and down the stretch. Mason Marchment is an interesting name because there was rumors about him making the team out of camp last year, but he suffered an ankle injury and then kind of slid down the depth chart a little bit. And there's no reason to believe he can't come into camp again this year, impress the team, and win that job, right? He's a huge guy. He scored like 16 or so goals with the Marlies last year, and the Leafs do need a little bit of size, and if he can keep up, I don't see a reason why he can't be there. Nick Shore is just there simply because he's a centerman, he's a full-time centerman, and Mike Babcock likes having two centers on every line. The other options would be guys like Igor Korshkov, Pierre Engvall, Nick Patan, Kenny Agostino, some smaller wingers, some guys that need to get adjusted to NHL ice, and Pierre Engvall probably needs a little bit more time in the AHL because he is taking reps at center. Moving onwards to the defense now, I have Morgan Rielly and Tyson Barrie together simply because they're the Maple Leafs' two best defensemen. Jake Muzzin with Cody Ceci simply because Cody Ceci is atrocious in getting the puck out of his own zone, and Jake Muzzin is great at that. The only couple of things that Cody Ceci is good at is he's okay at getting the puck over the other team's blue line and setting up the play. So they kind of play with each other, kind of offset. Jake Muzzin does a little bit of babysitting. Maybe pumps up Cody Ceci's trade value a little bit, and maybe we see him dealt in season. And the final pairing, I think, is going to be Martin Marincin paired with Timothy Winston Liljegren. I don't know how many of you knew his middle name was Winston, but I followed him on Instagram the other day, and he's got his middle name up there, so I figured I'd just shout that out. Liljegren would have made the team last year if not for a high ankle sprain, plus there's a need on the right side, so I think he's making the team out of camp. Come on. And Marincin is just there because the Leafs need a penalty killer, and I guess he does that fairly okay. And the only other option to start the season would be like Ben Harper. So here's hoping that Travis Dermott gets well soon. And before we switch off, I put Travis Dermott on LTIR just because he's going to be injured a little bit longer than Zach Hyman. And LTIR has its upsides, but it has its downsides. You want to avoid using it. And when you do use it, you want to use it as little as possible. The rest of it should be fairly quick. This is what I think the lines will look like in and around Christmas time. Like I said, you can flip-flop Trevor Moore and Ilya Mikheyev. Obviously, Travis Dermott and Zach Hyman are back healthy. So yeah, not too many changes. Let's look at the team in and around the trade deadline. And the biggest difference here is I'm going to have Rasmus Sandin on the third pairing with Liljegren, Travis Dermott switching over to the right side like he has played in junior and in the American Hockey League. And the argument that I'm making for this is that Charlie McAvoy with the Boston Bruins made his NHL debut in the playoffs. And he turned out okay, right? He didn't even come in from the American League. He came straight from college right into the NHL playoffs, right? Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren have been playing in the American League, and they've been dominating. And I'm not even talking about starting them in the playoffs. I'm talking about starting them in and around the trade deadline, right? Giving them about 20 games of experience, getting their feet wet, letting them play 15-ish minutes a night, maybe in a little bit of a sheltered role, because those top two pairings should be able to shoulder most of the load, right? Those top two pairings are phenomenal. Are you kidding me? Those are the best defensive pairings that the Leafs have had in years. And these two guys have been held in such high regards the last 6 months that I don't think it's unreasonable to expect them to be able to shoulder the load that other teams' top prospects have been able to do in the past. And another added benefit to this is if Timothy Liljegren and Rasmus Sandin are able to come in and give you quality minutes, then you don't have to go out and spend assets on a rental, right? The Leafs are already down a first-round pick, and if they can call up their top prospects and get solid minutes from them, then that saves them assets in the long run. And I'm going to switch back to the intro-outro screen here, and I think really the only place that the Leafs might not be able to afford to make an upgrade on is the backup goalie position. But, I mean, things move around a lot in the first month of the season, and they might luck into a situation. I mean, that's how they got Curtis McElhinney a couple of years ago, and that turned out to be okay. But they definitely do need to address that because Freddie Anderson cannot be playing as many games as he did last season. So that's going to be it for this video. Please click like if you did like the video. Make sure to subscribe. And guys, I hope you're all doing well and have a great day.